Sound like a plane crash.
Hey, Beth. What is that? Somebody hit the World Trade Center or the
Trade
just
Center.
The World Trade Center.
How do you remember 9/11/2001? Do you remember exactly where you were, what you were doing, or who you were with? I definitely do. I was passing out cupcakes in my classroom because on that day I was turning 6. And then suddenly, everything stopped. Teachers started whispering, the mood changed, and one by one we all got sent home. I remember sitting with my mom in our living room, watching everything unfold on TV, trying to understand something that didn't make sense to me then, and honestly still raises questions for people today. And that's what this video is about. Not just what happened. Even decades later, people are still asking questions. Welcome to the Question Everything series. This video is entitled 9/11. This video is going to cover the timeline of what happened, what official investigations concluded, and some of the most talked about theories that people bring up. I'm going to walk through everything and share some of the questions that stand out to me. But as a disclaimer, I do want to say before we get into this video that a lot of these things used to be readily available to look at, such as pictures and facts about the conspiracies, or any conspiracy really, on Google. But lately, a lot of information online today seems curated or filtered in ways that it didn't years ago, particularly about certain theories. Because of that, I sometimes look to platforms like TikTok, not necessarily as a definitive source, but as places where people are asking questions and sharing their own perspectives and thinking through things in real time. That said, I don't treat TikTok or any single platform as a reliable source on its own. It's more of a starting point. From there, I try to cross-check, compare different viewpoints, and use my own judgment to make sense of things. Search engines like Google or even DuckDuckGo are powerful tools, but like anything, they can reflect certain priorities or biases depending on how information is surfaced. Things can be almost wiped clean off of the internet if certain higher up powers decide that they don't want anyone to see it. So no matter where something comes from, TikTok, a search engine, or anywhere else, I think it's important to approach it thoroughly and use your own critical thinking. I will be doing the same. So before we get into the full theories about 9/11, we need to take a step back, maybe years even before 9/11 occurred, and look into predictive programming. These events took place prior to 9/11, but were figured out much later after 9/11 happened, when people started questioning things. This theory alone, I could talk about for hours, predictive programming, because it is a theory all in itself. But for today's video, we're just going to talk about 9/11 and the predictive programming that happened beforehand. I'm going to show you a couple of clips that explain what I'm talking about, and then we'll get into the actual video. This is what I would like to call the clock theory. Enjoy.
Number 1. Porky Pig 1948. It's interesting how the dog plays through the scene from the different perspectives of the people around the towers and the chaos on that day.
What's that? Look! It's the towers! They're falling!
Alfred Bester, The Demolished Man, 1953. Jack Kerouac, On the Road, 1957. Kerouac writes in the book, "When daybreak came, we were zooming through New Jersey with the great cloud of metropolitan New York rising before us in the snowy distance. We were a band of Arabs coming in to blow up New York." Strange Adventures, Volume 1. number 114, 1960. Wonder Woman Volume 1, number 136, 1963. BBC's The War Game, 1965.
For this woman, the compulsory sheltering and feeding of an extra 8 people. For the family who have fled this house, the immediate requisition of their home. For this man, perhaps imprisonment, if he refuses to bill it.
I'm not having eight. Sorry, sir, you've got to take 8. I don't mind 2. I've got to pull in that for it. Don't argue. But I'm going under the emergency regulations. It should, of course, take 8.
David Edward Thornley, age 37, general practitioner in Bedson. Now on the staff of one of a series of emergency medical aid units being established in preparation for a nuclear strike. Time, 9:11 a.m. September the 18th.
Newsweek magazine, 1967. The construction of the First World Trade Center complex in New York City was conceived as an urban renewal project to help revitalize Lower Manhattan, spearheaded by David Rockefeller. What's interesting to note here is that David Rockefeller's watch is set to 9/11. New York Times, 1968. This advertisement was for a committee of a reasonable World Trade Center, and we see an airplane fly sideways directly towards the Twin Towers. The headlines "The Mountain Comes to Manhattan" is based on the phrase "If the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad will go to the mountain," with the World Trade Center representing Muhammad's mountain. Popular Science magazine article, 1970. "30 Seconds over New York," 1970. A commercial airplane carrying an armed nuclear bomb flies directly towards the Twin Towers. Land of the Giants, 1970.
Well, my little friends, you're not quite as clever as you would like to be. I phoned the airline to check my departure time. I'm sure that you'll enjoy the view, especially at 11 o'clock.
Why do you want to destroy the city? You want to start a war?
Exactly. A secret society to which I belong has planned it for years. After the war is over, we'll be waiting, ready to pick up the pieces.
Good boy.
Disney The Mouse Factory, 1972. Here we see the hand and tail of Mickey Mouse pointing to 9 and 11. Superman comic, 1973. One of the Twin Towers' earliest comic appearances was in the story Whatever Happened to Superman in 1973's Action Comics number 428. Godspell, 1973.
All your wrongs will be redressed. You must never be distressed. Someone's got to be oppressed.
Godzilla vs. Megalon, 1973. Richard Martin Stern's The Tower, 1974. The Human Factor, 1975.
We suspended trials on 9/11.
So let's get back to those 9/11 trials.
I thought we'd be anxious to get to 9/11. 9/11 will search the number in 9th and 11th respectively.
I knew the air in New York was dangerous, but I didn't know we were thinking of using it as a secret weapon.
The prime programming on 9/11 police, and they arrest these ciphers that 9/11 has packaged up so neatly. Connected to 9/11. 9/11 is interrogating and been using 9/11 to find the people who murdered his family.
Mad Magazine, 1975. On the magazine cover we see a plane hit the towers, and inside the magazine was this advertisement. National Lampoon Magazine, 1975. King Kong 1976. The Twin Towers appeared in close to 700 movies. They were the quintessential New York City backdrop, often relegated to cameo appearances, but sometimes they played a major role, like in King Kong. Sesame Street, 1976. Thomas Chastain, 1976.
So I know you might be saying, wow, that was a long video in between your video, but I actually had to significantly cut out, I think probably 15 of them just for time purposes. But if you go on TikTok and you just type in 9/11 predictive programming, it is insane and it's unerasable. 9/11, 2001. 4 commercial airplanes were hijacked. 2 were flown into the Twin Towers in New York. 1 struck the Pentagon, and 1 crashed in Pennsylvania after passengers intervened. Within hours, both towers collapsed. The scale of the destruction was unlike anything most people had ever seen. Nearly 3,000 people, unfortunately, lost their lives, and the entire world stopped to watch. Investigations followed. The 9/11 Commission concluded that the attacks were carried out by members of Al-Qaeda. Meanwhile, the National Institute of Standards and Technology studied how the buildings collapsed. Their findings pointed to structural damage from the impacts, fires weakening the steel supports, and a progressive collapse that followed. In simple terms, the buildings didn't fall because of one thing, but because of a chain reaction.
Oh my God.
And this is where the questioning starts to happen. Even with official explanations, questions didn't stop. Certain claims started gaining attention. Let's go through some of the most talked about theories. So, rapid fire here. I'll just give you the major ones. The first theory is that it was an inside job by the US government and George Bush had something to do with it.
See on page 153. At the count of 3, everyone should be on page 1.
And other powerful entities allegedly orchestrated the attacks to achieve political or economic goals. The quote, "nice try, CIA," has been used often. The second big one is also possible with the first one being true, that it was a controlled demolition, which is one that I strongly agree with. Explosives were supposedly planted in the Twin Towers and Building 7 to ensure their collapse. In doing research, I found this video.
On the evening of September 11th, 2001, After the world witnessed the tragic collapse of the World Trade Centers, a nearby building mysteriously collapsed, the WTC-7. How did this almost perfect-looking building collapse? The key to this mystery lies in this video footage. Did you notice a sharp V-shaped dent at the top of the building well before the main collapse? This was the penthouse of WTC-7. Exactly below this dent, you'll be able to observe the three main columns of the building. You can conclude that this dent happened simply because these three columns collapsed.
So he just basically goes on to say a whole bunch of crap. I'm sorry, this is going to be a very biased video, but the best part of all of this were all of the comments in the comment section on YouTube, and I feel proud of where we have come as a society to not just take things at face value anymore. Rational Man says 23 years later, and it's still one of the cleanest controlled demolitions that wasn't a controlled demolition, ... Zeke 9567 says, can we get a computer generation on how the BBC reporter was able to report this building collapse 26 minutes before it happened? Fairs Gaduna, sorry for the mispronunciation, 7568 says, I have never seen so many improbable events happen in one single morning. BNOL03686 says, demolition companies should be so happy. Turns out, all you need to do is set the building on fire and you get a perfect fall. Das Hemd Chen says, it should have made me suspicious that YouTube didn't display the usual warning banner. Alda T265 says, the truth doesn't mind being questioned, and a lie hates being challenged. Tulip Fur says, came here for the comments and I'm not disappointed. I'm not either, Tulip Fur. Joe Sued 593 says, good try, CIA. Very nice animation. Robert says, I was born at night, just not last night. CJ 1985 says, the media always portray that only 2 towers were collapsed, but not so much on others. Over for 23 years, I did not know about these at all. Smurf 8411 says, that bit about the antenna is ridiculous. You can see it in numerous videos falling completely away from Building 7. Randy says, this reminds me of how one time my glass of water fell over and it made the entire coffee table collapse. Richie009 says, are we forgetting Larry Silverstein said, pull it?
A clip from Larry Silverstein. He was the lease owner of the World Trade Center as he gave an interview on PBS.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Now, we've just heard Larry Silverstein making the admission that when it came to Building 7, the decision was made to pull it, a term that is used by demolition experts in bringing a building down. But what was America and the rest of the world told as to why Building 7 came down?
About an hour ago, World Trade Center building number 7 collapsed. A 42-story building, weakened by the devastation that had occurred earlier today.
There was also evidence of molten steel, the presence of molten metal that was at the WTC site is often cited as evidence of controlled demolition, as jet fuel is not believed to burn hot enough to melt steel. Molten metal was found at WTC, but there is no good evidence of molten steel. No plane was at the Pentagon. Some theories claim that a missile or another object, not a plane, hit the Pentagon. And didn't something hit the Pentagon too? One claim is that the planes could not have gone through the building that easily. And if you look at some of the news clips of the plane actually going through the building, it doesn't show that the plane is fully going through the building, but there are clips of the plane going completely through the building, not even scratched. So that begs the question, is it green screen or what's going on here? So one of the first things that makes people pause when they watch the footage is how the plane enters the building in the first place. It happens fast and like almost too fast. There's no dramatic slowdown or resistance from the building to the plane. No moment where the structure seems to push back at all. Instead, the plane appears to pass into the building in a fraction of a second, just like butter. And for a lot of people watching, especially when you slow the footage down, that moment doesn't feel right at all.
Well, the point is, how can they project holograms of that size?
And therein lies the problem, because people are, when you say hologram, they're thinking of a Walt Disney little pixie dancing around in a little darkness area. That's all they know about holograms. They don't know that 20 years ago we could project a hologram with heat, noise, light, speed, anything we wanted, anywhere. And we use that on 9/11. We use that on 9/11. We use that on 9/11. Right now, the television...
Did you catch that? He was about to say to put a plane through a building, but he caught himself. Go back and listen to it again.
So there is a whole bunch of evidence towards this, and then the guy slipping up and saying that's what we used on 9/11 is insane to me. During editing and researching for this video, that is actually the first time that I have heard anybody admit to that. I've heard people, of course, proclaim that that's what that was, but I've never actually heard a slip. I'm telling you guys, TikTok, like I said, it's not always valid, but it is a very good place to get information to kind of research yourself. But it is the new Google, as opposed to how Google was back when I was younger, because you could pretty much look up whatever you wanted. Now, there was some scary stuff on there, don't get me wrong, but all of these videos and these comments and all of this kind of stuff raises questions. It seems like a metal structure should resist impact. A plane should break apart more visibly, and there should be a clearer moment of collision. Instead, what you see is something that almost looks seamless. It goes through like butter. Even if you don't see a clip of the plane going out the other side, it's going in too easily into the building, both times in both towers. And that's where the questions start. People still question all of these things because at the end of the day, this isn't just about physics. It's about what people see and how it feels. It feels very staged, and there's a feeling that you get about things where you feel like, something's not right about this. I can't pinpoint it, but something's not right. And for some viewers, that moment doesn't line up with what they expect reality to look like. Now, we went through the controlled demolition already, and we compared the plaza to the first tower. And this is really one of the best theories that I have, the best evidence that I can give for 9/11. Besides motive and all of that, physically looking at a demolition and looking at the towers falling, it is like insanely the same. People point to the speed of which the towers collapse, the way the buildings fall vertically, and sounds heard in the videos. Investigations, however, found no evidence, quote, of explosions. Instead, they describe a progressive failure from the top down. Media anomalies. Some say that broadcasts kept cutting out. Timelines seemed kind of off, but the live news coverage, especially in chaotic situations, often involves delays. That's their excuse. Well, I found someone recorded 9/11 at 8:31 a.m. of Al Roker saying something insane. Like, it literally gave me goosebumps, and I need you guys to hear this.
Mr. Roker, Al, it is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning, yeah. Although it's not fall yet. Although it's not fall yet. Although it's not fall yet. So, it's still a perfect summer morning. And good advice.
Miles and miles of sunshine. Miles Davis. We're going to put Miles out there today. Nice as it can be across the Northeast. Rough seas still from the chop from that hurricane. But other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet.
Interesting how he says it's too quiet. And that is actually a superstition in like hospitals and stuff. If you say it's too quiet or it's quiet, like chaos is just impending. This is one of the videos that I have reposted on TikTok multiple times. It is so telling that there was something way bigger going on. Just watch how insane this is. Okay, for reference, this is when George Bush is in the classroom before he is told that the World Trade Center has been attacked, or whatever the man whispered in his ear, because there's conspiracy about that too. This is what the class was learning on that exact day.
Yes, yes. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. What word? Steal. Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Yes, play.
The first time that I watched that video, I had goosebumps all over my body, and I literally, like, my eyes started welling up because I don't remember ever hearing about that until maybe a year ago. And for anybody to think that this was not planned, I don't know how to get you with the rest of us anymore. I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I know there are people that believe a lot of these things to just be whatever is fed to them, and that's not their fault necessarily. But I implore every single one of you to listen to your conspiracy friends, because we might not always be 100% correct, but we are always correct that something is off, whether we're correct about the actual situation or not. Now, a part of this could possibly be a part of a sacrifice. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I do like to look at everything in a biblical aspect, and I believe that there's good and there's evil in the world. And when they're going to do something demonic, let's say they is a big organization such as the Illuminati or something like that, it has been a pattern when they're going to do something massive, like on this scale, they drop Easter eggs. And I think there's a famous quote, and I could be wrong about this, but it says their symbolism will be the end of them or the death of them, something like that. I'll have to look that up again. And this could have been one of those ritualistic aspects where, of course, the kids have no idea what's going on. Who knows if the teacher knew what was going on? I feel as though, did George Bush do it, or was it done to George Bush because he pissed off the wrong group of people? I don't know. I'm just here questioning everything.
People from the North Tower. The North Tower came crashing down.
The next claim is that there are crisis actors. So a crisis actor is someone that is paid to pretend and act as though they were a part of the tragedy, whatever tragedy or crisis is going on currently. The reason, supposedly, that they hire these people is so that the narrative is pushed in exactly the way that they, remember, they is like whatever power is making this situation happen. It's the narration, however they want the narration to be. And a lot of the time, the people that are in the crisis are too shooken up, and they're liable to say anything. So it's all about narrative, looking the part, looking correct. They don't do a very good job of dressing them or like making them look like they should have been in the tragedy or the crisis. There's so many examples. I can give you a couple. I don't have a lot of evidence of this for 9/11, but every other crisis is literally like plastered all over YouTube and TikTok.
This is her. Look, 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 look. On cue, on cue. And the white guy comforting her. Look at the emotion in her face. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look, he's almost like giggling a little. It has to be freezing. Nothing is happening. The dudes are just standing there. And she's crying hysterically because something happened, but nothing is happening. Like, do we see the program here?
Look, we're going to use the at least 59 people killed, at least 149 people wounded. Those numbers are going to go up. There's just no question about that. I mean, you have fierce fighting in a number of locations around the country. You mentioned Chernobyl. Russian forces quickly overtaking that area. We understand they are still in control. The other thing that went down today that was of huge importance was Russian paratroopers went into an airfield 15 miles outside of Kyiv, and for a short period of time this afternoon, they...
Ladies and gentlemen, meet Ashby Beasley and meet Shondell Brooks.
All of a sudden, we heard these sounds that were like, they sounded like fireworks. Someone started yelling, there's a shooter, there's a shooting.
The last chapter, I'm happy it's not happy, but glad that it's over. Yeah, Shondell Brooks.
Shondell Brooks, could you spell that for me?
Yeah, SHAUNDELLE. Brooks, BROOKS.
Aren't you guys tired of covering this? Aren't you guys tired of being here and having to cover all of these mass shootings? I'm from Highland Park, Illinois. My son and I survived a mass shooting over the summer. I am in Tennessee on a family vacation with my son, visiting team. It has overtaken cars. Assault weapons are contributing to the border crisis and fentanyl. We are arming cartels with our guns and our loose gun laws. And these shootings and these mass shootings will continue to happen until our lawmakers step up and pass gun safety legislation. In Park, Illinois. I was actually in town just on vacation, but I'm a mass shooting survivor. My son and I survived a mass shooting in Highland Park where there was a shooting at a parade that we were at. We ran for our lives.
So on a typical day, there would be about 209 students inside the school and approximately 40 to 50 staff members, about 42 staff members. I'll take just a couple of questions before we go back.
So the 7 dead, and then the nature of injuries, how many injured do you know? That they're being treated still, or injuries? I know first responders weren't, but
An
officer
had a wound from cut glass.
An officer had.
Are you awake yet? And what are the mathematical chances of all of these coincidences happening? On one hand, we have Ashby Beasley, who survived a Highland Park mass shooting, who just so happens to be in Tennessee, and just so happens to make it to the scene, and just so happens to speak in front of the cameras. And now she's being seen by millions of people talking about gun control. Again. And if that weren't enough, Shondell Brooks just so happened to be there. A lady who lost her son to a Waffle House mass shooting. And both of them are friends. And while all of this is happening, Tennessee just so happens to be voting on whether or not to lower the age requirements to purchase a gun from 21 to 18.
Situational awareness, as they call it.
I mean, I think, yeah, but I don't think it should have to be like that, you know? Like, it's kind of dumb.
Lori, Mom, I bet you are
Yeah,
protected
we
Mama
don't
Bear.
know. Yes, of course, of course. I mean, he was only 11 feet away from me when this happened, maybe 12 feet. It's absolutely horrifying. And he's had nightmares. We don't know. Hopefully, we are fine, and there's nothing more to come. And his little brother, who's 11, who saw everything as well, seeing his brother's neck split open, you know, there might be some trauma in her very.
Well, I can't. Situational.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the last one could have possibly been attributed to, I don't know, what is he, like maybe 13 years old, just being silly. They're very resilient at that age. Or maybe like pain pills. It was like a refreshingly hilarious video to watch. So those are just a couple of clips that I can show you. Again, it's kind of difficult to find any for 9/11, seeing as how we didn't really have a lot of social media or really any at all back then. But the next part is that some believe the attacks were used as justification for increased security in airports, foreign wars, and policy changes. As far as airport security, if you look at the long term of what is to come spiritually with the end times, we are looking at the slow making for a society that would need the mark of the beast. This is like a very long kind of conspiracy to explain, but basically, as a Christian, we believe that the mark of the beast will be required to purchase, to sell, to travel, because to get the mark of the beast, you basically have to deny Jesus and God. So to get the mark of the beast would be basically damnation to hell. And they're going to require, supposedly going to require us to have the mark of the beast to fly or anything like that. So this could possibly be one tiny step in making that big conspiracy happen. And I believe that there's a lot of evidence in a lot of the government right now of these things coming to pass. And they're kind of shaping up and getting ready for the end times. Another thing is there were theories that they staged the attack, they being the government or whomever would be in charge, and they used it as a way to blame Iraq and Al Qaeda so that they could go over and get oil. And there was some money, I think, involved, maybe gold, something like that. And then the policy changes again is kind of security and like just being able to crack down in airports specifically. And it's true that major global decisions followed this exact event. But separating what happened from what happened because of it is very important. Now, we'll get into why these questions exist. When something this big happens, people don't just want answers, they want clarity, and they want certainty that it won't happen again. When something doesn't feel fully explained, our brains try to fill in the gaps, or we're digging for the truth. There's a few reasons why these discussions continue. We have distrust in the powers that be, and we have for quite some time. There is an emotional aspect to this that can make us aggressive in wanting the truth. And sometimes it's not about proving anything, it's about trying to make sense of things and never just blindly trusting anything. So again, I'll touch on the Christian take. So for some people, events like this aren't just historical. They're a bigger part of a bigger timeline, a bigger pattern. Some connect global changes, security, surveillance, control, to larger questions about where the world is headed. And for those with a faith perspective and that believe things are spiritual, that can tie into preparations, warnings, and the direction of society overall. But as a way to interpret the condition of the world, if you just go in Revelation and read through Revelation, you can look at the world right now. And this was back in 2001, so things have got significantly worse from there. So here is my take. I overall 100% believe that Al-Qaeda did not do this. I believe that there were reasons that maybe I will never know the full spectrum of what's going on, why they destroyed the towers. I think there's multiple reasons, because that's a pretty drastic move. I think that it's good to always ask why. So, finding plot holes and reasons to question things, I think it's good for us as a society instead of blindly following whatever everyone else is doing. I think some questions come from real curiosity in this, and some come from misunderstanding, which is the people that believe what they're being told. And some come from trying to process something so massive, which is so valid. But one thing is true, we're still talking about it, and that alone says something. So, what do you think? In closing of this video, I would like to say that rewatching this footage and firsthand accounts has made me emotional, because no matter what caused it or who is behind it, still people lost their lives. And it was a horrible tragedy. So when I'm making this video, I want everyone to know that I am in no way taking any of this lightly. I'm not discounting any sadness or loss that anyone has had from this tragedy. I think that as American citizens, we are all owed the black and white truth of things. And that's why I feel so adamant about questioning everything and even making videos like this. Whether I'm right or wrong, this was not right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.